Okay, so the next parami is called Sacca. Sacca translates as honesty or truthfulness. And there are, as with everything, there are all kinds of subdivisions of these things, but the two principal ones of this are an external honesty and an internal honesty. The external honesty means that, it relates to our sila, that when we are in relationship with the world, that we should be honest. And sometimes even if it hurts us, not that we should be honest and hurt other people, that's not the point of it, but that we should not deny or mislead ourselves into something. And that often can be based in a high degree of bravery. Sometimes it takes a lot of bravery to say, no, I don't accept this. This is not what I want to do. But also at the same time, so it's a protection for ourselves that we should be honest. And they say that if you don't tell a lie, then you don't have to have a good memory because you're not trying to maintain a story that's fictitious. But with Sacca, it means to live it, as with everything, it means to live in a pure way. We're talking about a perfection of honesty. But it does not mean, I used to give this example because it was a part of my life, but if you were to invite me to your home and you had a picture on the wall and you said, what do you think of this picture? If I like it, then spontaneously, I think it's true for everyone. We just say, oh yes, it's very nice, I like that a lot. If I don't like it, I don't have to say anything. I don't have to say, oh, it's awful. How could you put this on your wall? It's dreadful. Have you got no taste at all? So I don't say that. And if I don't like it, then the thing that I really mean is, well, what does it matter if I like it or not? It's your home and your painting. If you like it, then that's enough. You don't need to ask me. And it's like when we ask for approval. How do you think I look? Do I look all right? And it puts us in a very delicate area when we're needing the approval of someone else. And the same when someone asks us, they say, how do I look? So, well, are you comfortable? Do you like how you look? I think it's so easy to be pulled into this idea of, well, I have to be honest and tell you that. You're awful, or you're horrible, or your clothes, or your cooking, or whatever else is all awful. You don't ever have to speak like that. So the honesty is to be honest with ourselves and our behavior, and then not to just impose that without any consideration onto someone else. Not to lie, but to be, I think, careful with our words. In the Eightfold Path, we have samavacya, which is right speech. And the Buddha said, well, we have this incredibly powerful tool, voice and speech. So they say the tongue is soft, but it can cut like a sword. Well, we know that. All of us in our life have been in some way, or have felt in some way abused or humiliated by our school teachers or even our parents or our friends or whatever else. That's part of growing up. So the Buddha said, well, you have this incredibly powerful tool. Why don't we use it to harmonize groups, to bring them together, to be honest? Always, this is the basis of it, of Sacca, but to be honest, but without being sort of vindictive or callous or uncaring about the feelings of another. Now, we come to Dharma, and you say, well, whatever another person's feeling is coming from them. And that's completely true. I can't offend you. I can't hurt you in absolute terms. Whatever you experience is coming from you. Say, oh, you really offended me when you said this thing. No, I didn't. You felt offense because that's something that's some delicate part of you that was stimulated, and so you might feel offended. But I can't offend you. But even so, even if that is true, which it is true, that's not how we live with other people, is it? They ask us something and we can respond cruelly or coldly, and they feel hurt. So we have to take care of their sensibilities. So the Buddha said, well, you know, we have this thing, I'm just developing here, this eightfold path I'm just developing. And one of them is right speech, to use our speech in a way that brings harmony and soothes people and, you know, unites people rather than doing things to fragment society or set one group of people against another group of people or one group of people against animals or whatever. But at the same time, you should be honest. So there's a great skill in this. And I think yesterday I said that when people come to me occasionally and say, I'd like another practice, what more can I bring to my Dharma practice? I'm sitting every day, I'm quite peaceful with that, but I'm looking for the next thing to do. And so I would say, usually I would say, then speech. Look at your speech. Look at how you construct sentences. Look at your relationship with the other person. I don't like you. That's not true in our case, but the person in front of you, you may not like them, but you can still be kind to them whilst being honest. They ask you, do you like this or that or some other thing? And it's, well, it's none of my business. If you like it, then be happy with it. It's not my place to judge all of you and say, well, I've got to be honest here. You're the worst students I've ever had. You know, how is that useful to anyone? So Sacca means honesty in our dealing with other people, but not, you know, the other side of it is not to be cruel or unkind or uncaring. Then the other aspect of Sacca is our relationship with ourselves. And that is, I think it is much harder. Last time we were together for a seminar, I told you, I think it was last time I told you the story about how when I was a young man, when I was 18 years old, I wanted to go on a motorbike ride with my friend, and the bike wouldn't start, so we ran down the road and jumped on it. But at the same time, my girlfriend had come to meet me, and I looked across the road, and she saw me, and I saw her, but nevertheless, I ignored her. And I jumped on this motorbike, and off we went. And then later, when I came home and I met her, she was so angry with me that I'd seen her and just completely ignored her. And I began the story. No, I didn't see you. Yeah, you did. No, I really didn't. Of course you did. I'm telling you, I didn't see. If I'd seen you, I would have stopped. You know me. I'm so lovely. And so it went on until I actually convinced her that I hadn't seen her. But so powerful was the lie that I convinced myself. And I held on to that story that, no, I didn't see her. I don't know what she was making such a fuss about. I didn't see her. I don't know why she's saying that. But I held on to that version for something like 30 years. And then one moment in the meditation, this is why meditation without expectation, just to go back to Kanti Paramita, why it's so important, because you don't know what little piece of karma is going to come to the surface. We have no idea. That's why we shouldn't be impatient. That's why we shouldn't have expectation. We take our posture and say, okay, bring it on. Whatever is going to come is going to come, and I don't mind, because I don't have a preference either. Something beautiful, something pleasant, something joyful, or something, you know, unpleasant. But if we consider ourselves to be disciples, then we're just opening ourselves to Sacca, to honesty, to the truth, the honesty of this being that we call self. So I was sitting in meditation, as I had done for, I suppose, hundreds of thousands of hours. And then suddenly this bubble of karma came up and just exploded. I did see her. Of course I saw her. I looked directly in her eyes. We saw each other. She was right. She was absolutely right. And I was completely wrong. Now, there's nothing I can do about that. I don't know where this young woman, well, she's not a young woman now, but I don't know where she is to apologize to her, but that doesn't really mean very much either. But that moment of honesty, you can't, I said it already, but you can't sidestep your karma. You can't deviate from your karma. What you put into play in your life by empowering a particular mindset, you have to meet the consequence of. And the consequence of that lie was, at some point, it became known to me, and I had to meet the Sacca, the truthfulness or the honesty of that situation. Now, in the scheme of things, That's a pretty minor story. It's a good story to illustrate something. And we all have moments of that where we have lied or misled someone to get something that we want. And it's, mostly it's okay. We're not master criminals. But if you're doing the practice properly, you will meet the consequence of this. And that is, again, called the Visuddhimagga. That is the purification, that you're letting go of the story you have created for yourself, because now you're engaged in Sacca Paramita, or Parami, Sacca Parami, the cultivation and then the perfection of honesty. And it's not brutal either. I've already said, but all these perfections are all interlinked. They are like a chain, really, but they're all interlinked. And so, as I say, one moment is dana, but another moment is Sacca. So you want to give dana to someone, or you want to make the show. I think this does not apply to any of you, but you want to make the show of giving dana. You hold up this €50 note that you're going to put in the box in a very special way. But at the same moment, you need Sacca. What am I doing? Why am I doing it? The only reason to give dana in this situation is to support the continuation of Dhamma. It's the only reason. I mean, if the teacher is someone with purity and integrity, they're not looking to buy a jet plane or go on holiday or buy 2 or 3 cars or have women or men. It's the only thing is this continuation of Dhamma, of this pure Dhamma, so that other beings can benefit. And that's the only reason. But if you want to make this show of making a dana gift so that everyone else will know about it, I'm told often by people who are close to me, don't mention me in the Dhamma hall. Don't say that I do something. But I do it. I don't listen to them because I want them, which is all of you, in fact, to know that I truly appreciate your kindness. So, I mean, there's an honesty in that. It's not, I don't think I deserve it. I don't think I don't deserve it either, but I don't think I deserve it. And so there's just an honesty around our relationship. I don't want anything from you. So when you offer things from the kindness of your heart, which I believe to be the case, then then we're sharing in this Dhamma perspective of the perfections of all of them in different moments, but in this case of honesty. Why are you doing this? Why are you giving dana? Why are you living a moral life? Why are you renouncing the world? All these, the ones we did yesterday. And very often the answer is, I don't know. I don't know why I'm doing this Dhamma path. But you must know. I'm not sure that I do know. It's just in my heart. It's that I can't do anything about it. For 7 years, I trained alone. I practiced transcendental meditation, then I went to Zen, which I liked. I loved it. But then, for personal reasons, which was a broken romance, so that's what it was, I went back to the Isle of Man. I'd been traveling for a while, and I thought, I want to go home again. And it was really quite nice, actually, because I went home and I didn't tell anyone I was coming back. And I went to visit my sister, and then she was very pleased to see me. But then my father came to the house. And now, actually, just thinking about it now, it touches me. But I was like the prodigal son who had come home. He was so pleased and overjoyed to see me. And I thought, I don't deserve this. I hadn't done anything. I played rock and roll and, I'd learned meditation, of course. So I came back to the Isle of Man, but I didn't have a teacher, of course not. I had the books by Hamalawa Sadatissa that I've told you about. And I had the Zen style training, so I sat every day. I sat every day for 7 years, alone, with no teacher, just these books that I would read and reread and reread. And so many times I thought, I can't do this anymore. What's the point of this? And I would look at my cushion almost with hatred, and I'd say, I'm not coming near you tonight. but eventually I'd be on it. It was something that was much bigger than me. It was a karmic force in my life. This Dharma, and of course now I'm really pleased that I continued it and that I didn't give up. But there is this honesty. You say, well, oh, but life must have been so easy for you. And no, not at all. My Dharma journey was not different from anyone else's. I met the same difficulties. I just continued with it. And I can't even take credit for that because it was my karma. I didn't want to meditate every day, but I did. And I kept on doing it. And then I felt lonely, dharmically lonely. And I wanted to, and I put an advert in the paper, and I formed a little Buddhist meeting. It wasn't a Buddhist, it was like a spiritual meeting group. And there were 4 of us who would meet. And we just talk about different traditions, but it was just, for me, someone to talk to because I felt alone, And these are things that we have to acknowledge, that was my self-honesty. I feel alone, I feel vulnerable, I feel isolated. What can I do? And then, so we used to meet, and that was very useful, but it didn't last so long. And then my teacher told me that I should teach, and then the next part of the thing came along. And that was obviously much more structured. But again, that honesty, that I don't want to teach. Why not? Actually, the idea had never occurred to me, but I think part of it, when he told me what I should do to advertise it, part of that was the idea of, well, I'll be mocked. People will just laugh at me. If I take a poster into a health food shop and say, Buddhist meditation is now being taught on the Isle of Man, and this lady in the shop says, oh, that's interesting, who's teaching that? And I'd have to say, me. And then I could just imagine her, falling down, laughing, rolling on the floor, just holding her sides, laughing. The idea of me teaching meditate, me. So, that was a part of my background, this sort of low self-esteem. But then the honesty with that. And then, happily, of course, I had the support of my teacher, which means that if he had confidence in me, then surely I can do it. I can at least try. I mean, I tried to fail, the story. But once it was set up and this man came every week, then I found the joy in it. And now it is my greatest joy, not to teach. I don't have the idea to teach anything, ever. This is me being honest with you. This is Sacca Paramita. I don't have the idea of teaching anything, but just to share the thing I love most in the world. And then you may think, well, he's married, he's got children and grandchildren now. Shouldn't they be the most important things in the world? But they're not. But my relationship with those other beings comes from my relationship with Dharma. So I try to use always comforting, right and honest speech when I need to, and comforting, right and honest behavior when I'm around these people, not to make them feel belittled. And if they do things that I don't like, I certainly don't look for confrontation. I don't look for that. But if you ask my opinion, then I'll answer you honestly. But the honest answer might be, well, what does it matter what I think? What do you feel about it? How do you feel? It's up to you. You have to know for yourself. When people come to my room and they ask me, well, they tell me some story and say, well, what should I do? I say, well, I don't really know, except live with love and be aware. And it's important to know that if your husband or wife was here asking the same question, I would give exactly the same answer. Because it's Dharma, that's what I'm asked for. Give me your Dharma perspective. I only have that perspective. It's the only way my life looks, or looks out from this Dharma heart. So we have Sacca Paramita, our behavior in the world, so that we are seen as, I think, harmless and loving people, because that's what we're manifesting. We're manifesting our love. So that's what's seen, that we're not trying to manipulate others to get them to do what we want by being dishonest. We're not trying to, in some way, promote ourselves so we are seen to be more than we are. I think in our pure Dharma tradition, I think right at the beginning, of course, it all comes from my teacher, but there's no hierarchy. I know all of you support the Dharma practice, but there's no hierarchy. We are just people together training in Dharma. That's really it. There isn't more to say than that. We don't have, in some institutions, they have these like scarves that they wear to show that they have a higher place, and in other ones, only when you've done 10 retreats are you allowed to serve the food. So we don't have things like that. We're all together, men and women, young and old, um, sharing this Dhamma. And the teacher at the front is just sharing with you his, in this case, his experiences and his stories and his love for you. Really, that's true. If I'm being honest, to say to people, I love you, not in a romantic way. It's certainly not in a sexual way, but in a maybe like a loving parent kind of way. I want the best for you, just like I want the best for my sons and my grandchildren and my wife and everybody else. I just want the best for you. Thank you so much. What's the best? Do a lot of practice. Commit to the practice. That's the best. Why? Because then you will see the obstacle to your happiness. But you have to cultivate that honesty, that internal self-honesty. You have to cultivate that so that you're not deceiving yourself anymore. And we know people do deceive themselves. And people, around me deceive themselves when they say things about themselves like, I don't have any suffering, or I'm always happy in my life, or I don't have any anxieties. This is not true. And I even just a moment with a person, I think you don't have to be the master to see that. You only have to be open to them. And so these are always parts we have to get past. One lady, who was a student of mine for a while, a long time actually, she said to me, "Oh, you're always talking about fear." I am, not in a negative way, but anything that's not loving is fear-based. So your anger, your anxiety, your suffering, your pain, these things come from fear. And it's all right. That's just where they come from. But she said to me, "You're always talking about fear, but me, I don't have any fear. I never have any fear." And I knew this woman quite well. And she was an English woman, and what we would call a very nice English lady. So that niceness in British culture is fatal. It means that you have been encouraged all your life to present yourself as a certain kind of person, always calm, kind, caring, considerate, respectful, and that's all at the surface. And underneath is this churning of the fear and all the things you have repressed, the anger and often the ill will and the bad feeling, and it's all down here somewhere. But at the surface, you're this nice lady picking flowers, and men are the same, of course. Not necessarily picking flowers, but they're certainly the same of repressing things. And then one day I was at home on the Isle of Man, and the telephone rang, and it was this woman, and she said, "Oh, I had to tell you, I've just had an experience. I was sitting in meditation, and then suddenly, and from nowhere, this enormous amount of fear just arose and overwhelmed me, and it was so strong, I had to get up and go to the toilet." So, how we speak about fear. Now, my only reaction to that is, well, thank heavens, finally, something is moving, literally as well, but something is moving in her practice. So we can look a little bit more honestly at how nice we really are and how things don't really disturb us. Now we can really begin to look. Now you can begin the cultivation of Sacca Paramita. So this is such an important part of our Dhamma practice, that we don't turn away from the truth. I already said it this morning, but there's nothing that you really are and no way you have to be. That there's nothing that you really are. There's no identity that you have to formulate and then hold on to. There's no ideal you that your parents have told you should be. and what nice girls do and what nice boys do. These are just ideas. Everything in life ultimately is just an idea. And so we can see them, and socially they're very convenient about how a woman should behave or how a man should behave in our respective societies. Well, that's fine. But in reality, they are just ideas, and they're not your ideas either. They're given to you by someone else. So in this honesty, you can quite easily look at this being that we call self and say, well, it's not for me. This is not what I want. And I'm not fixed in this place. So when I look for self, I don't find anything except this continual movement. And that's the perfection of Sacca, or Satyaparami, the perfection of it's called honesty or truthfulness. And it's of course, all these things are incredibly important. And this is what Gautama, over his thousands of lifetimes, had to begin to cultivate. And at some point, he had perfected honesty. Not that he was always telling people, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're attractive, you're ugly, not just espousing opinions and views, and not even Dhamma. He would only speak Dhamma when he was asked, Bhante, please give a talk. Okay, this is how it is for me also. Please give a talk. Yeah, okay, I'll talk about honesty, self-honesty, and honesty in the world. So Satyaparamita, so obviously very, very important. But in the sense of also not being critical, not being judgmental of yourself, but just observing honestly. When we come to our meditation practice, we have these two aspects that I speak about all the time. And one is love, what we call love metta bhavana. And that becomes the environment into which the past of you can be seen and known and let go, released. So that's love. So with awareness, we see. So awareness is the tool for seeing, for using this Satyaparamita. We're looking at, oh yeah, that thing I said did happen, and I did it, and so on. But that's all right. It's only an old story, and it arises into this loving kindness where you can say, oh, I saw it. Yeah, I did something wrong when I was 15 or 18, when I put all this salt and pepper in my sister's cup of tea when I was like 13. Yeah, I don't carry that with me as, oh, what did I do? I was a terrible person. It seemed to be good fun at the time. But to recognize that, we're not this noble, beautiful, wonderful person that we think we are all the time, that because of our fear and because of our jealousies and our bad feeling for others, we're able to do things that now we might feel nervous about. But with the Satyaparamita, we can see these things and we can release them. We can observe them with the awareness practice, and then we can release them into loving kindness, where they just dissolve and they just fall away. You don't forget them, but you're not carrying them anymore. They're not a part of who and what you are. I had a married couple, who contacted me a while ago, and the woman was talking about her first husband, and her first husband was not very kind, apparently, because I don't know him. But she was saying that, he wasn't very kind, and he was a brute, really. He was rough, and I don't know if he was violent with her, but it was an uncomfortable relationship. And then she said to me, I don't know how I could have married a man like that. And I said, but you didn't marry a man like that. You married the man sitting next to you. We carry this story. That wasn't you all those years ago. All the things that happened didn't happen to you. They happened to a different version of you. And that version of you arose and passed away and is not present now. And in the same situation, then you wouldn't be, you probably would not react or respond in the same way. One woman called me, she said, oh, I'm doing this Dharma practice, but I seem to be losing all my friends. I said, yeah, that's not normal. That is what happens. It's not that you're losing your friends, but what you're interested in no longer sits so easily between you. And so you can still always be friendly, always be kind, always be gentle and loving and have a nice time, but there's no depth to it anymore, simply because you're moving now in different directions. That's all. You're moving on a Dharma path which is away from the world, and they, in this illustration at least, are staying firmly established in the world. So then they want to go to parties and drink and do what kind of normal people do. And we say, oh, it's not for me. You've changed so much. Yes, I have. It's my Dharma journey. That's what happened. The things that used to interest me don't interest me anymore. It's as simple as that. It's not you. You didn't do something wrong, but we don't connect in the way. We're not going to go on holiday together again with our kind of teenage friends going drinking and whatever people do on holiday. Now it has to be, for me, it has to be a Dharma holiday. It has to be. You have to go and visit temples and monks. And yeah, I have to. Otherwise, why would I go? We're going to Disneyland. Well, I'm not going. That's not for me. So that's Satyaparamita. The two things. One, looking outward at the world and behaving in a way that brings something at the same time being honest. So there's often some kind of internal conflict around that. How can I be honest with this person but not hurt their feelings? Just taking respect at the conventional level of hurting other people's feelings. And then the internal Satyaparamita, looking at this being that we call self and recognizing the things that we have done, which may be not so nice, but even the things we did that weren't nice and pleasant and kind and joyful. It's just about a sense of honesty. It's not hiding from ourselves anymore. So that's Satyaparamita. Okay, so I offer this for your consideration and your reflection. I mean, you'll be well and happy.